Hi guys, I'm Kasia. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss movies and horror. And today I'm here to finally talk to you about another of my expected releases from 2022, and that is Pearl.
It's coffee time.
There is no mystery here. You guys know that I loved X so much. I was so in love with that movie. I went to see it a couple of times to the theater. I just recently bought the Steelbook edition because I just loved it so much. And Ti West announced that he was going to do a prequel and a sequel, and that made me extremely happy as well. Now, Pearl has been running for a long time in the US, but it is harder for us here to get access to Pearl, but I finally was able to watch it, so I'm here to let you know what I thought of it, spoiler free. Pearl is also subtitled as an extraordinary origin story, and it is the prequel to X, a movie that just came out this year as well. Mia Goth obviously reprises her role as Pearl, and she has become one of my absolute favorite actresses. I have to say I had already noticed her, especially in other movies like Emma, where she's not the main protagonist, but I always loved her character in that movie, and there's something about her that I really love, and in this character that she plays both in X and in Pearl, she's just so magnificent that she's become one of my favorites. Pearl is set 60 years before X, and it was all, I believe, shot at the same time. And I think that Mia Goth also had a lot of saying when it comes to Pearl's character, and especially in this movie she had a lot more input. And it's going to tell Pearl's story in Texas in 1918 and what happened to her for her to turn into this lunatic that we got to know in X. Trapped on an isolated farm, Pearl must tend to her ailing father under the watch of her mother. Lusting for the glamorous life she's seen in movies, Pearl's temptations and repressions collide. Honestly, this movie is mostly run by one character, and that is obviously Pearl, and she knows there's something wrong with her, but she still doesn't know quite what that is. She's going to figure it out though quite soon. Pearl just wants to leave this isolated Texan farm in 1918, and what she wants to do is she wants to be a performer, she wants to dance, she wants to sing, she wants to be in theaters, and she wants to be seen. She wants to be a star, and that is basically what she's really trying to do in her origin story. Plus, she's also best friends with an alligator, which is the same one that we obviously get to see in X. Pearl is about a movie about how intense some actors can get when they really want to be seen, and how far will they go in order to be seen, to get successful. We know that they will try to be successful at all costs, and you can see that with Pearl really good in this film as things escalate. Pearl says things like, all I want is to be loved, I don't like reality, or I want the whole world to know my name, and we get to see her obsession progress. She seems to be really innocent, especially at the very beginning. We think that she's very naive, thinking that she's gonna get like this huge like breakthrough and she's gonna become a star just by going to an audition, and it's gonna be perfect. So you kind of see her being naive and innocent, and then things take a dark turn for Pearl. My favorite scene is actually the last scene where you only see Mia Goth's face. That long scene at the very end, it is absolutely fantastic. This is obviously not a spoiler. It's just her facial like acting at the end. It was just absolutely amazing. She deserves an Oscar just for that. She goes from someone that is innocent and terrifying to a more of a sexual creature to somebody completely terrifying. When it comes to the cinematography, it's all very similar to X. However, now we have a more of a technicolor approach. You can see the colors are more vibrant, they're different. But there's many shots, you know, from the farm that are going to bring you back to X, and those were fantastic for me to see since I love that movie so much. There is bright green grass, there is like this beautiful red colored farm, The colors are absolutely stunning, and the way that some of the scenes are framed are absolutely fantastic. Now, Pearl's family is not an easy one. Pearl basically lives with her mother and father, but her father is really sick and on a wheelchair, and she basically has to take care of him every day. And her mother is really strong-minded. The actress did such a wonderful job. She's very strict with Pearl, and she doesn't allow her to even have dreams or ever think that she could leave this farm. She makes her feel like she's stuck to that farm forever. But that only fires up Pearl more and makes her want to get out of there even more. The movie is set in a world where there is the Spanish flu and a lot of people are at war yet or coming back from the war, and there's a lot of fear about the flu. So you would see that people are trying to be more careful also when it comes to getting close to each other or certain relationships. And even though we know this is set in a specific period, this movie seems honestly to be in its own personal world, and it feels like it's something of its own, even though we know it is exactly 1918. Pearl is a figure that, thanks to everything that we get to see in this film, we have a lot more sympathy for her because we understand where she comes from and what she's been through. So the things that happened in X take another meaning now. And honestly, you could watch Pearl first and then X, but I would still recommend it to watch it in the original order that the movies were released. But I feel like you could also watch this one and then X and it will be okay. When it comes to the horror, I would say that in comparison to X, this movie felt like it had less horror. Now, in X, it takes some time until you get to see some of the horror happen. And in Pearl, it feels even slower, the progress, until you get to see somebody actually die. The kills in X felt more like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, more like crazy all over the place, instant. And in Pearl, it felt a little bit more calculated, cold-minded. It was a little bit more like at specific times for a specific reason. It's because Pearl has this feeling of rejection, of anger, frustration, and that's what led her to do things that she recognizes herself that are things that are not good. Also, there's a lot of moments when there's kill that's about to happen that the camera moves away from the actual kill, which can be a little bit frustrating for people that love horror and see like very first glance what's actually happening and how things hit a head or how things hit someone's ribs. And there's a lot of moments in Pearl that are a little bit like a dark comedy almost. Now, when it comes to the sexual stuff, we know that X is a movie that includes a lot of sex, and even the kills sometimes are related to something sexual. Let me put it that way, I don't want to spoil things. And let's say that in Pearl we do have a really weird Wizard of Oz sexual moment. I will leave it at there. And weirdly enough, this movie does have some things in common with the Wizard of Oz, and that was really surprising to me. I would have never expected it when I watched X, that Pearl's origin story would remind me to the Wizard of Oz. But Pearl, nonetheless, is a really slow burn, like a real slow burn. And I know that a lot of people are not going to be on board with that, because some people go into these kind of films expecting the horror from the get-go, or expecting more of the kills, and this was not the case. So maybe you just need to lower a little bit your expectations when it comes to the horror. At the end of the day, I gave this movie a 4 out of 5. I still really enjoyed it. I don't know if I loved it exactly as much as X, but I don't think I loved it more than X. I feel it's maybe the element of surprise that I had with X and the unexpected turn of events of that movie that really like blew me away. But fear not, because there is more to come. If you've enjoyed Pearl and X, we are getting a new movie next year following Maxine. That will be the sequel to X, and it will follow Mia's character as Maxine instead of Pearl. And as we can see from the teaser, we believe that Maxine is gonna have kind of like an 80s vibe, and I believe it's gonna involve Maxine and the porno industry. So I'm really curious to see how that movie is gonna be, but we will have to sadly wait. I would say personally, if you've enjoyed X, please watch Pearl, also because you're gonna get so much information about the character, the background, and you're gonna understand so much more the things that happened in X. So next time you watch it after Pearl, you're gonna see probably things in a different perspective. Alright you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this spoiler-free review of this movie. Let me know down below if you watched it, if you also really loved X as much as I did. Let me know in the comments, let's talk about it, and I hope to see you all, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!